Welcome to the decision. So as you can see, I just checked this guy, and he has to retreat his king, so he goes back into the corner. Now, this is where you have to figure out what you're going to do to proceed with your attack. There's a lot of things. We got into this position because I sacrificed an exchange, and then he got fancy, played bishop to e4 when he should have taken my knight. He didn't do that. That's his problem. So now black has to make the decision of what to do to proceed with this attacking advantage of 4 pieces versus whatever. Really the bishop, then the queen. The rook in a1 in the corner is doing nothing as a spectator unless you make a mistake. So give yourself, I would say, no more than 5 minutes. Pause the video and we'll be right back in 3, 2, 1. Shazam, we're back. So let's look at what we could play. Knight takes f3 is absolute garbage. He plays not bishop takes knight, queen takes bishop check, but he plays bishop takes b7 and we're dead. Well, not dead, but it's not good. He's got everything under control. Knight takes f3 would be worthless. You know why? I mean, knight takes rook is worthless. Rook takes knight. He's got everything under control. He's back in no danger. So that's not helping us. We have an interesting move that almost works as queen takes f3 check. He plays bishop takes queen. We play bishop takes bishop check. In fact, yeah, it really doesn't work. King to g1, knight to f3 check, and then we have nothing. I'm sorry, we don't have knight to f3 check. It's occupied by the bishop. It just loses, is what it is. Well, you could play queen takes, bishop takes, knight takes f3 with unleashing a discovered attack. That part we do have, but it's not really that effective. So that's what I have to say about that. Bishop takes bishop, you might as well just resign. He just plays queen takes bishop and, it's history. Because, anything you do, queen takes, if you play queen takes f3, he plays queen takes f3, knight takes, and then, whatever. You're just, it's no problem. He's an exchange up and we're dying. Anyway, so that doesn't work. So basically, the move that came to my mind, since everything else fails to work, and I saw that it works instantly. Did you find this move? D5. It's shockingly odd because it blocks off one of your most vicious attackers, which is that bishop on b7. However, his bishop on e4 is such a key defender that it's worth getting him out of the way, because he gets out of the way, but it doesn't help him, because we still have the ability to unlock our bishop by playing pawn takes pawn. Well, but he'll play pawn takes pawn first. He'll do it for us. So, okay, that was a good idea. Now we don't have the ability to unlock our bishop, but that's all right. Now where are you going? So he goes, and that was a move I had not anticipated, really. I didn't think he was going to play rook to f1. I expected bishop to d3, and then queen takes f3, and on him, like white on rice, would follow up with queen to g4 check is coming. So rook to f1 was really good, and it's testing, but the bishop is now in business once again. The thing is that with bishop to bishop to d3, our bishop is closed out of that diagonal. He'll never do anything on that diagonal again. He didn't move the bishop, so I took it. I'm not worried about this garbage. In fact, I'm worried because he cannot take the pawn. Do you see why f takes e4 cannot be played? I hope you said yes. If you need to, well, let's go back one move and I'll let you look at it for yourself one more time. What would you play as black if white plays f takes e4? Pause the video and we'll be right back. In 3, 2, 1, Shazam, we're back. So if he takes this pawn, we get him with queen takes rook, we're mating him. Because this knight, this super knight, is guarding g2. Now, it was really funny. It reminded me of my friend. We played a game, goof off, not a goof off game, it was an instructional game. Like, well, let me see how it goes. He wanted me to beat him so we would see how a good player would beat him. And he played some moves, and like both of my knights got on the rook files. After the game, he's like, "Man, you're not supposed to put your knights on the rook files." I know that's true, but when you make a move where the only good move is knight to the rook file, that's where it's going. Well, this knight is on the rook file, which you normally don't want to stick, but there it is. It's a great move. So it's very, chess is paradoxical. You have things that you're not, you want to generally do this, but there's the exception, except when you don't want your knights on the edge of the board on h4, unless of course it happens to be in a really good position, which in this case it is. So yes, he gets checkmated by if he plays pawn takes. So I'm sure he did it reflexively and didn't see it until it was already played. So he plays f4. I'm like, okay, that does nothing. Let me be proactive. Now I'm threatening to unleash, as my father would say, the cobra on b7. So my dad, when early tournaments we played at the University of Houston in 1981, he was intrigued. There was a couple of guys that played like King's Indian Defense, and he watched those guys, and those were pretty good players. And so he fell in love with the fianchetto. Well, that's the Italian pronunciation. Which is the bishop on b7 or g7 or g2 or b2. So, and my dad, the King's Indian Defense, and then also the Perk defense for black against e4. He called those bishops the cobras. So g takes f4, laughs at rook check in favor of just the nastiest cobra in town. So I had to throw that out there for those of you that pay attention, and I don't really get a chance to mention the cobras very often. So he's dead lost, I would think, at this point. I didn't run it through the computer. I don't need to. Dead lost is dead lost. I mean, this looks dead lost to me. I don't see how there's any way that there's a salvation. Because black has just completely taken over the board. With that d5 was a killer move. Now, I'm not saying it wins by force, but it was a really good move. He played some dumb moves under pressure, which is what happens. So, check. Now he's, king, what is it? King, well, yeah, king h1 is not better. How about king h1's better? I go, no, it isn't. It's stupid. You're going to die. Everything he does loses at this point, so, this is, he's like, And that's it. But the thing is, let's look at this again. F4 is absolutely horrible. I wonder if he could defend this pawn with like queen to F2. I don't think this is good for him because literally my entire team's attacking F3. Every piece that can attack this is attacking F3, and I got a pawn in there for good measure, okay? So I got 5 attackers on this guy. So, yeah, that rook move was terrible. I thought he had to play bishop to D3. Now, here's the question. What happens? I check him. I mean, this is what I thought was happening here, okay? This is what I thought was occurring. And, you know, I just don't know, is it good or not? Or how good is it? I mean, I don't have an ability to play rook to F2 is the problem. This looks like the move to me that he should play. It just looks terrible. But, I mean, it's not that bad, right? He's threatening to play rook to G1. This is one of those things that this is what makes defense so difficult to play. As black, I can see that king H1, and I'm like, well, what do I do now, genius? I'm not sure. You know, my bishop is just super garbage. I mean, maybe I am just better off like so, and possibly playing bishop to C8, and then playing bishop to H3. Then I might have something. But even so, I'm not 100% sure of that. Because like I said, I just don't have the ability to really land any kind of killer move. Well, I guess, you know, okay, no, that's not right. Maybe I have this. Check this out. So instead of checking him, which looked really awesome, what if I just play this move? He still can't play queen F2. You know, it is a toughie. Doesn't he have this move here? And my check is like, so what? Knight checks here, so what? So maybe that isn't any good either. This is game in 3 minutes. This is not, you know, as the Three Stooges say, this is not hippity hop at the barber shop, you know. So I don't have a crushing move necessarily. Oh, I'm an idiot. I do have a killer move. This comes from my dad. Oh, you have a light squared bishop? I'm going to move my pieces to the dark squares. Duh. Now he is in major league trouble. Okay. So yes, I did have a killer move, but it took me a little while, too long to find it. You know, it's hard to say. The odds don't look good that I find this in a game in 3 minutes. It took me too long if I was goofing around, so I don't know if it's because I wasn't seriously looking hard or not. Do I find the move? 50-50. You know, it's 50-50. I clearly found the move here, but under pressure, who knows? It's 50-50. But it is the kind of move that I would normally play. Again, my dad's rules, like I'm gonna make this a bishop is a ghost. He's not gonna do jack. I'm gonna kick his butt on the dark squares. He's in trouble now. I think he's dead. I don't see how he could stop this, to advantage or holding even. I don't think he can hold even and stop rook g4. h3 is queen g3 check, and then queen takes here, and then queen checks again. And I'm just going to, or rook checks at this point, once I take this pawn. So this loses to this. Well, I say it loses. It's probably losing. Yeah, this is losing for him. This is losing for him. Okay, for sure. So yes, rook to f4 is a mega crusher of mega crushers in this position. It's such a great move that it makes me happier to have done this video. Because he made a mistake and I beat him relatively easily. That's not satisfying. This is the satisfying move. Rook to f4. Game over. This is, I actually have a video by this name called The Reason You Play Chess. The reason you play chess is so you can play a move like rook to f4. And you're looking at this going, there's no way, the ghost of Bobby Fischer cannot save him now. This is why you play chess, is to get moves like this, and you're like, oh my God, this guy is toast. There's literally, look, he has nothing. Oh, he's got rook. He's got one move that doesn't lose. Rook to e7. That's it. That's the move that will save him. Oh, man. But I just come here, and rook to g4 is checkmating. The only thing that stops that, bishop here doesn't stop it. I would just checkmate him because he interferes with his own piece. Okay, so bishop e2 is queen g2 checkmate. He has bishop to f5, which, narrowly averts, some kind of checkmate. And he's not doing any funny business to anybody at any time. To be honest, I have to take this. I can just go here. You can't do jack. It's like, whatever, dude. He gets a check. I would just come back here. He's not doing jack squat. This piece is in, he can't even hold this bishop. I'm going to take it. He can put two defenders, but I got three guys on it. This is nasty. So, rook to f4. That's the awesome move that was not played in the game because he made a mistake on his defensive idea. And but now you can't fault him after I played d5. After d5, c takes, and then e takes. Everything he plays loses. But bishop to d3, he played that rook move is just abysmal. That was abysmal. Pawn takes bishop is not a pawn takes bishop is not a Magnus Carlsen move because anybody could see that. My father had so many phrases that were a lot of times they were said out of humor. But they're just absolute gold. Pawn takes free bishop. He would say that, in a trash talking way. My dad would say, pawn takes free bishop. It's like, how do you argue with pawn takes free bishop? There's no arguing, okay? So he had these killer phrases. It's just like pawn takes free bishop. It's like my dad even has a. It's such an easy move to do. You know, he has a phrase for it. Pawn takes free bishop. So you can't fault white for failing to defend properly with bishop to d3, because this also loses. Now, granted, it loses to just a really, the phrase could be overused to a degree, but it loses to a problem-like move of rook to f4. Okay. So you cannot fault white for losing a game that was dead lost. Okay. He didn't, he made a mistake that wasn't obvious. Okay. He made a mistake that wasn't obvious, and boy, did it come back to bite him. This is one of those things where the move of the game is hidden in the correct defense. If he plays the correct defense, then I get to play rook to f4, which is the move of the game. This is the reason you show up to play chess, is to play a move like rook to f4. It's not obvious. It's super awesome. It's just this is it. This is the reason you play the game of chess, because you're like, bam, rook to f4 is so fantastic. At least to me. Whatever, if you've played something like this, you understand. So, man, this has been terrific. Hope you like this. Comment, subscribe if you're not subscribed. This is freaking awesome. This is just gold. I mean, I'm not a grandmaster, but this makes you feel like one. I'm just telling you. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll talk to you later.